Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Adult Select Committee. I hope you've all had a good break and a good summer holiday. You've all got back safe, so that's brilliant. We just got a slight problem with the agenda this morning. We're going to have to move number 5 around, which isn't a problem if you're in agreement with me. We're just waiting for Welsh Government to be present in the building. I think Claire's just going to have a look. We've got Mark with us now, so we may just move that quite around. Just a second, I just need to go through the agenda and make sure that we cover all the other items. We've got Tony Easton with us, and Val, are you going to be speaking on the CHC today or on the white paper? Yep.
Very briefly.
Very briefly. Tony? Hello, Tony, I can't hear you. You'll have to put your mic on and move.
No, that's right.
There you go.
One thing you do ask is it only the Welsh Government being invited, not the CHC?
Anybody answer that for me? We're not too sure. Just the Welsh Government. Legislation team.
It'd be important for them to have their input as well. Val and myself can give our input, but we don't really represent the CHC. We represent ourselves within the CHC. So I'm concerned that the CHC.
But you're part of the CHC, aren't you?
I'm a part of the CHC.
Yeah,
Val is
so
part of the
you're
CHC,
representing them then.
But it would be far better to have a representative from the CHC to put that argument as well, rather than just the Welsh Government.
May I ask you confidentially then, while we're in committee? We're live streaming. Is there a motion going to council on this? We put your mic on, Tony, please.
It's not. It's working properly.
We'll just move. Then.
I was expecting the cabinet member to be here today because one of the thoughts that I had, or we had, or she had, was that we would put a motion to council. So I'm not quite sure whether we will or whether it will be. But as to who puts the motion, I'm not sure. If there's a motion, I'm not sure. It needs to be in by.
So, as representatives of the council on the CHC, is it not in due respect that you bring that to council on the thoughts of our representation there? Because if you're going to rubber stamp this, that's the only option you have is today, and that'll be it, unless it's something
I
that's
agree with you, but I say I was talking to the cabinet member about this. I'm letting the cabinet member take the lead. So I don't know whether she's here today or not. I don't know what Val knows anything about it.
Roger?
Penny.
Thank you, Chair. It's almost certain that CHCs will be responding, especially if they think it's their own death knell. So I'm sure there'll be loads and loads of responses from individual CHC members, if not the actual CHCs themselves. So it's up to them to do it, isn't it?
But CHCs representing the council, where they're appointed from the council, they represent the council on there. I would think it's up to them, who represent the council, to actually bring this to council. There are representatives. Not me or anybody else, i.e. and keep council notified as well, and that's their job. Right, okay, we're going to move the agenda. Apologies for absence.
Hi, apologies have been received this morning from County Councillor Paul Pavia.
Thank you, Wendy. Declarations of interest as and when. Everybody happy with that? Open public forum. I have no members of the public there. Gentlemen at the back there, members of the public? No? No, just observing. Thank you. Oh, right, okay. To confirm the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 25th of July 2007. Ruth? For?
Usually at the start of the meeting, if we're live streaming, we introduce the committee as to who is here.
Do we?
Well, we do generally.
Do you?
The officers.
Well, we did the introduction some time ago, i.e. probably in May or June when our first meeting was. The agenda's here. Anyway, if you want to do introductions to committee, I got no issues with that. But we've got members not here, officers aren't here. But if you want to do the committee, okay.
It's important when we're live streaming that the people out there know exactly who is here and what their role is.
Okay. Councillor Howard, Chairman of Adult Select.
Paula Harris, Scrutiny. Wendy Barnard, Democratic Services Officer.
Claire Marchant, Chief Officer, Social Care and Health.
Julie Boothroyd, Head of Adult Services.
Tyrone Stokes, Finance Manager for Social Care and Health.
County Councillor Ruth Edwards, a member of the Adult Select Committee and also Chair Planning.
Councillor Louise Brown, Vice Chair of Adult Select Committee.
Councillor Jane Pratt, Chairman of Stronger Communities.
County Councillor Lisa Dimmock, Member of Adult Select Committee.
County Councillor Roger Harris, Member of the Adult Select Committee.
I'm Martin Grokert. I'm a member of this committee and chair of the Children and Young People's Committee.
County Councillor Tony Easton visiting the committee this morning.
County Councillor Val Smith visiting.
Good morning, I'm Mark Howcroft, Assistant Head of Finance.
Right, good morning everyone. I've just been informed the Welsh Government will not be with us today. Okay, there's a bit of a problem. So I'll keep you informed when I find out whether we can get them at a later date. Okay, Claire?
Yeah, apologies, committee. They've actually got the date of Thursday's Children and Young People Select rather than the Adult Select today. So they are able to come on Thursday. Also, I'm able to run through the presentation on their behalf. Obviously, it's not my consultation, it's their consultation. But I will be able to run through it with a view to informing a response from committee if that is what Select would like to do.
Okay, Chair of Children's CYP for Thursday, how are you with that one?
I'm happy that the important thing is that we get them along and we're able to question them. So I'm quite happy that we add that to Thursday's agenda.
Okay, would you like Claire to continue today, or would you want to take the presentation on Thursday? Members for CYP and members from this committee, are you available for Thursday? Okay, if you're not, I can do nothing about that. Councillor Eason?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to come on
Roger.
Thursday. I got a funeral at 1 o'clock. So is it 2 o'clock meeting?
10 o'clock.
10. I got a meeting in Caldecott in the morning. I'll see what I can do, but I'd like to be here for that.
Okay.
All right.
Councillor Grocott, as chair of the CYP, are you happy to take it as the first item to allow members of the public to come? Obviously, the witnesses are expecting to be here at 10.
I'm more than happy with that. But as members know, I was also at this meeting going to suggest that because of the importance of this document, that members should have a chance, if possible, to have a full debate on it in a member seminar. And that might equally well be a way of taking it forward and giving more members a chance to comment on it.
Roger?
Just following on from that, Chair, bearing in mind the importance that we've discussed about this document, maybe an email to all members saying, it's going to be the equivalent of combined adults and a CYP, to let all members know how important it is and to advise them that they're welcome to come along on Thursday.
Okay, that's good point, Roger. Councillor Bryan?
Yeah, my only concern is the committee on Thursday does have an item that will arise a significant amount of discussion in relation to the 21st Century School Building Programme, and I'm a bit concerned that it might curtail discussion in relation to that particular item, although I think we do need to discuss this. I mean, is it proposed that we have any preliminary discussion at all this morning on this particular issue at all, or not?
Claire, any answer to that?
I'm more than happy to talk to the slides that Welsh Government have sent through to enable some input, but that would be probably a little repetitive of what will be presented on Thursday. So, I think there's a choice to be made around whether you want to have some initial considerations here to feed into the session on Thursday, or whether you'd rather sort of focus on Thursday, because in a sense I would be running through the same presentation that they will make on Thursday, albeit the proposals aren't mine. I've just had the benefit of seeing them give the presentation in another setting.
Okay. Chair of CYP, Councillor, Are you still happy to take this on Thursday? I think it's such an important item. That
Yes,
it's
I'm
the only
more than happy.
platform we
I
have.
take Councillor Brown's point. There are a couple of things that potentially are quite contentious. I think it will test my abilities as chair to keep discussion focused and not to verge into political polemics, which there is a potential for in the report that's been referred to.
On experience, you'll be fine. Time scales, you'll be fine. It's just one of the things. It does happen. It's happened many times. As long as the committee are prepared for that, you're the chair, you're in charge. If you're willing to take it, no issues, and thanks very much. Today, Claire's made a very valid point there, is you're going to run through it twice. It's up to you as a committee whether you want that to happen or you'll wait for it on Thursday. I do suggest, though, and I think this is very important, that council or seminar, I think, is it the 23rd of September we have full council? Is it the 23rd? 21st. Would it not be within the interest of this committee to ask the chairman of the council to actually take the agenda item on the council so you can have a full debate? Because I think connecting between now and full council may be a better opportunity than arranging a seminar, because there's lots of bits and pieces in the week coming on. I think we've got audit committee very soon next, so there's lots of times there. So that's only my view on it, but as a committee you may want to say, well, actually, if the clerk can do that from Thursday on, then it gives the full council opportunity to have a full and frank debate about it. It seems it's so important. Right, we've got Councillor Brown, and then Chair, I'll let you back in.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to suggest that, as the Chief Officer, Claire Marchant, has suggested, that there is some form of presentation available. Is it possible for that to be sent to us prior to the meeting so that we can actually read it and we're in a better position to respond than basically, ad hoc at the meeting itself? Thank you.
Claire, do we have that? Can we send?
As far as I'm aware, the presentation went out with the agenda pack, your agenda pack this morning, and obviously Wendy will email it to all members now this morning ahead of Thursday's meeting. So if they do wish to attend, they've had an opportunity to see the papers.
And Chair, can you make sure it goes to CYP members also? Very urgent. Today is an urgent item. Would you like to start a little bit earlier, Chair, on Thursday, perhaps? It's up to you. I'm just making some suggestion here that actually you could do part of the agenda, like previous minutes and things like that, and try and hit them off, and then it gives you just a little bit of breathing space for that extra half hour. It does help, but that's up to you. Just a suggestion.
I'd be quite happy to have the pre-meeting at 9 o'clock and start at 9:30.
Okay.
That's
but
fine,
the point I wanted to make in response to you, Chair, is that my concern about taking this to full committee is that it's, in a sense, it's thrown into the political bear pit. My concern is that members in this chamber, with their majority group, will be trying to score political points against the Welsh Government. And those in my party would actually feel that the Welsh Government is doing overall a pretty damn good job in health in Wales. And my concern is that in the bear pit of council, we lose the very important points that might individually be need to be made here. So I think a seminar where we can be more objective and we can make considered and reasoned points would be easier than to take it to full council.
Claire, just want to respond to that, please? And then Ruth, I'll let you.
Just a suggestion, Chair. Welsh Government officials have got from 9:30 in their diaries on Thursday. So if there was an opportunity to take the item first on Thursday, I think that would suit the officials. It's already been suggested that maybe putting the invite out to other members to attend what would, in essence, be a joint adults and children select might obviate the need for a seminar. And then maybe what we could take to full council out of that consideration at the joint select is a draft response to the consultation, and that would fit with the timescales because the consultation response is due with Welsh Government by the 29th of September.
I got Ruth signalling to come in, and then Roger, and then Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Claire has more or less said what I was thinking, that it should be sent with high importance to all members, you know, not just to those committees, so that they, you know that this is happening on Thursday morning, so they're well versed then, you know, even if they don't have all the draft things, at least they could come and understand what is coming to full council. And I think we'd have a far more balance. I don't really agree with the bear pit has been suggested. I think this is far too important to think of it on those lines.
Okay, thanks, Ruth. Roger, and then Tony.
Thank you, Chair. I think the important thing is we're talking about altering the time on Thursday and telling all members to come along. I don't think we should alter the time. It's just confusing. Some people will find the relevant emails, others won't. And especially if they're members of the committee and they turn up at 9:30 and all the questioning's been set between 9 and 9:30, etc., I think we should retain what we normally do.
Roger, are you on that select committee? No. I think that's up to the chair then to make that decision, Roger.
I'm just saying that
pre-meetings, I've had pre-meetings at 9, and it's up to the chairman if he feels that he needs to just get through the agenda but wants to spend that quality on the 2 items. You just say you've got a very important item on there also. I think it's up to the chair then to decide. We will start early as best we can and try and have the quality and the substance out of them 2 reports. Tony and then Ruth. Tony. Okay, I've got Ruth, Councillor Brown, and then I'll let the chairman of CYP come back in.
No, I'm
Ruth?
fully in agreement with what the chair here now says, that the chair of CYP is his prerogative to state when he has it, and all he has to do is contact the members of that committee. They're the most important to be there for that, not the whole lot, but at least those members.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I think in terms of the presentation and the white paper, obviously, if the presentation alone is given, I'm a little bit concerned that some of the points might be missed, because I actually was looking through the white paper itself as opposed to the presentation. And so, for example, on the presentation it says, strengthen the people's voice across health and social care. Now, obviously, that's a matter of opinion. So will we actually have some sort of overview of the white paper itself? Because otherwise we may be presenting a view which obviously there are conflicting opinions on.
Claire, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, the presentation is one that Welsh Government officials have been delivering across Wales in various settings as part of the consultation on the particular white paper. It's not for me to comment really on sort of what officials have highlighted from the white paper as the areas that they wish to emphasise during the presentation. I guess it's for them, you know, under scrutiny and under comment from members and others who they're consulting with to have those assertions tested if the white paper seems not to quite support those statements. But obviously that's what they've highlighted in what is a standard presentation they're giving in you know, numerous settings over these months of consultation. Those are the points and the policy intent which they're highlighting for people to consider in their responses.
Okay, I'm going to let Councillor Grucott make the decision now on what he wants to do, because the clerk is ready to send the email now to members of your select committee. Can I just allow Councillor Harris to just come in for 1 second as also quickly, Roger?
Yeah, it's just a comment. I think the whole point about this sort of consultation is to get diverging views. If we're all of the same mind, then it's a pretty useless consultation, isn't it? All we've got to hope is that all views are taken into account, but we're talking about government. So thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Okay, some interesting range of discussions. It seems to me the key issues are that the Welsh Government will be here on Thursday morning, that there will be a standing committee meeting that would be a very reasonable place for them to make that presentation. The point has been made that it's already a crowded agenda. So what will happen on Thursday is that we will bring forward the start time to 9:30. We will not listen to the presentation from the Welsh Government until after 10, so that if members don't realise there's a different start time, they won't miss the chance to contribute to what will be a very important discussion. So that means that the pre-meeting for members of the committee will be at 9. The meeting will start at 9:30, but the presentation by the Welsh Government will not start until after 10, just so we know that as many people as possible can be here. And I would ask that when the invitation to all members goes out, it is stressed that this is a very important discussion, that there will not be a chance for a seminar or really for full council because of the requirement to get the response back, and emphasising that it is a genuine invitation, and we hope as many as possible will come to CYP on Thursday morning. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Could we just be clear as well? Councillor Easton made comments about there may be an extension to the consultation. Could somebody just inform this council if that does happen, that it may give us a bit of space to carry out a seminar or whatever? Or Claire, can we just make that point? Tony, you did say it, that there may be an extension when the Welsh Government go back into... If that happens, we may have a bit of space. Last one on this, and we're going to move on. Councillor
My
Pratt.
understanding from Claire was that it would, whatever the outcome of the children and young people, it will then go as an item on the agenda for the council. Is that correct?
Thanks very much, Councillor. What I was proposing is that we take a draft response then to full council for council to consider and hopefully approve and endorse for submission to Welsh Government to the timescales of the current consultation end date, and that fits, doesn't it, with that end date of 29th of September.
And you're happy with that, yes? Can you make sure your committee on Thursday agree to that as well? Okay, right, to move on then, I think we'll move on, Claire, and you'll do your work and your presentation on Thursday. Are you okay with that, everyone? Yep? Yep, okay. Right, let's move on then to agenda item number 6, budget monitoring, period 2. Good morning.
Okay, thanks, Chair.
Okay.
I'm here this morning to present the revenue and capital outturn statement for 17-18. It's based on month 2. So just highlight to you point 1.1 on page 63. It is based on actual data as at month 2. We've had to make a number of financial projections and assumptions in forecasting up to year end. If I draw your attention to the recommendations in section 2, and those predominantly of 2.1, that you consider the net overall revenue outturn for the council of an overspend of 164,000. And 2.2, you consider the capital outturn position as well. In terms of what relates to yourselves, in terms of the adult select and the performance as at month 2, if I draw your attention to the monitoring analysis in 3.1.2, which I believe is on page 64. In terms of adult select, what that covers is adult services, community care, commissioning, partnerships, resource and performance, and as at month 2, that is projecting an underspend of £172,000, circled against a budget of about 33 million. If we look further down on page 68, we've got the director's commentary from Claire, and is giving some of the reasons as to the underspend in adult select portfolio. predominantly is around the current staffing vacancies that we had at month 2, but it's to stress that at month 2 we did plan to fill those throughout the year, and we have accounted for that in the forecast. If I take you then to page 70, and in 3.2.1, Directorates had a number of saving targets as part of the MTFP setting for 17-18. Social care and health had a savings target of 627,000. Predominantly those savings fell within the adult select portfolio budgets, and as at month 2 we're on target to meet those savings, as well as deliver a possibility of 172k underspend, which is really good news. It's good that the teams have pulled together in these testing times to not only try and meet those savings, but also deliver a small underspend. But again, it is stressing that it's based on month 2 data and the extrapolation we've done to year end. We will have another one that we'll be presenting to you, which will be month 7, and I'll give you a fuller picture then, because that will be based on 7 months worth of data.
Could you just explain the reason why we go from 2 to 7? Because I think that came out in Cabinet, Mark, on last Wednesday, didn't it? We've changed the reasons of delivering financial statements and quarterly monitoring, etc. Can you just explain to members?
Yeah, no problem, Chair. This year we're piloting a change in approach that means that actually instead of quarterly monitoring for members, we will be looking at a month 2, a month 7 and an outturn situation, so effectively dropping one of the monitoring cycles. It's largely built on a reflection that actually we would like to give SLT and DMTs more time to influence the figures rather than simply reporting them. And actually you'll appreciate that with some of the exacting deadlines around committee reporting, etc., some of the criticism in the past has been that, well, SMTs and SLTs haven't had the opportunity to actually actively look at the variances being forecast and actually being able to influence them. So there are inherent weaknesses with moving to a 3-period model rather than a 4-period model, but actually be reassured that actually management and officers are actually getting interim monitoring that will compensate for that. We will be actually obtaining member feedback as to whether they thought that the 2, 7 and 12 was a valid way to go. And members may be interested to appreciate we're in the market at the moment of actually securing a bolt-on front end to our ledger facility, which would allow officers and members to view the financial situation in real time going forward. It's used by our colleagues down in Newport. It's looking quite a positive arrangement. So that also explains why we would look to reduce our formal monitoring periods to the 3 that I've indicated.
Okay, that's great. So month 7 really is the crux of where we are, where we're heading, whether things are balanced out properly, yeah?
Yeah, we had a consideration as officers as to whether we do month 6 or month 7, but obviously it's the first month back for the schools. We felt that actually giving them that month to actually get back into harness, head teachers, etc., month 7 would be more appropriate.
Okay, just for members of the public out there, month 2, in my perception, is the end of May, yes? Correct, so financially is April. Some do run different. So we're talking October then will be the crunch, yeah? Okay,
yeah, that's right.
Right, okay. Members, any questions on the figure? Roger?
Just before we go into questions, it's just the only thing I've got to close down on is the capital position. There's not a lot to say because in adult services we haven't got a capital programme, but I just want to add that in, which is on page 72, but you can get a flavour of the capital.
We'll do the revenue overall, and then we'll go back into capital. Roger?
Yeah, it's only to question, if we're going to limit the number of times we get presented with the budget. I'm not quite sure, and we've got the relevant officers here, about the significance of month 2. If you look on page 65, it's got the various deficits at period 2 over from 2014-15 up to well, not. It's got period 1, 164,000 deficit for 2017 and 18. But at the end of the day, as you can see, the deficits are all over the place. And there's absolutely no correlation that I can see whatsoever. And at the end of every year on this page, we've ended up with a surplus in the budget. I just wonder if month 2 is pretty pointless and maybe month 3 would be better. But we've got the officers here to tell me that I'm totally wrong.
Mark, you're signalling to just speak on that one.
Yeah, if I may, Chair. I mean, Councillor is right, month 2 and month 3 would be probably very similar. What I would highlight to you is that whilst we talk about month 2 and month 3, we are actually extrapolating that to the outturn position for every single monitoring report. It's not just month 2 or month 3 information. From accountants' perspective, at the start of the year, we have very little activity on which to base a forecast. Getting back to members and explaining to them the budgets they've set themselves, reminding officers and actually starting that forecasting with officers seems to be a more sensible prospect than waiting to month 3. There are compensatory ups and downs as you describe, Councillor, but those would be the same whether we do 4 quarters or 3 quarters, to be honest with you. And actually, at the end of the year, yes, I've been very pleased that we've been the right side of the bottom line in terms of driving a surplus. It feels increasingly harder every year to manage to do that, and actually it's probably not from net cost of services that actually that is reality. It's from extra council tax receipts, it's from treasury aspects, rather than necessarily social care activity or children and young people activity. And actually, in assessing the monitoring, it's probably fair to say that when Tyrone has done this in the past, it probably varies by less than 1% from quarter 1 to actually outturn.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Grewcock.
I'd like to ask a very basic and simple question. In terms of adult services and similarly pressures in my own committee of children and young people, the central government's determination to maintain pay increases at 1% seems to be crumbling. Costs are rising very rapidly, staffing as well as buildings and the continuing provision of services. In terms of adult services, is there simply enough money in the budget to continue to provide services if pay increases start to go above 1%?
Anybody would like to answer that question?
I'll answer. I think we've all got stuff to add to that. What I'd like to do is, from my point of view, just take the 1% out, because in terms of the size of the budget within social care, that's not irrelevant, but it's a small element of it. I want to concentrate on some of the larger issues. In terms of some of the impacts in terms of adult social care, is put on the news almost every day when you look at it, not just adult but children, which is what you're interested in. I can cover that off on Thursday. But in terms of adult, we've got increasing capital threshold limits where people can keep more of their capital. That sucks them into local authority funding sooner than has been in previous years. We've got impacts of national living wage, 0 hours contracts, so on and so forth. There are grants out there that Welsh Government have given, but what I don't want to do is leave you with the impression that that's going to cover all of our liability. It has some sort of contribution to it, but it doesn't cover, so it's getting harder and harder. Like Mark was saying, every year is getting harder and harder. It's harder for people like myself. It more falls, that liability falls onto Julie and her team to try and make it work with limited resources, but we have got all of these conflicts as well. It is a challenge, but I don't want to leave you under the impression that we've got all these grants that Welsh Government say are £1 billion or 10 million for Wales. That doesn't cover our liabilities. We do max out the grants, and all that's accounted for within the forecast. Just adding on to what Mark said around the extrapolation, whether we did a month 2 or month 3, it wouldn't really affect those results I'm presenting today. We look at all our commitments and we do extrapolate those up for the year.
Okay. Any more questions? Mark, you just signalled to come back in.
Yeah, I was just going to give you a pragmatic consideration. I don't believe that the adult social care arrangement is sustainable into the longer term on its present basis. People are living longer. The health profession is incredibly good in terms of finding innovative ways of keeping people alive, but actually the financing is borne on a very historic basis, and it probably isn't sustainable for the level of people that actually we help.
Okay.
But I don't think that's a situation that's specific to Monmouthshire. I think that's a national issue.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Ladies?
Just wanted to come in on the back of what Mark said and what Ty was saying, just with an example, really. Ty mentioned the capital threshold, and I just want to give members an assurance that we're on the budget like Sonic every day. We're looking at every evidence base that we have to understand how costs are adding up, what the impact of other pressures are to our cost base, and have a very, very detailed, almost we'll call it forensic analysis of our current situation. The capital threshold is an interesting one. Currently, last year, in the last year, we were looking at how we were thinking that in the south of the county, placement activity around residential and nursing was getting a bit hot, and we were saying actually that feels like it's bucking a trend that we've perhaps been having for a number of years. When we looked at that in some detail, what we learnt was that actually they weren't hot from the perspective of practice, as in placing people in care homes. It was the amount of people who had come in. There were 17 people who'd come into care homes self-funding and then dropped below the threshold, and then obviously they come into our arena. And for those members who were at the induction seminar that we did, I think we touched on this a little bit. And obviously impacts, for example, like care homes being built in our area. There's a new one being built in Landfoist, which I think is in the order of 70 to 80 beds. The impact, we know there will be an impact, because obviously people will migrate from Monmouthshire or from elsewhere into that provision. And obviously if they come in self-funding and fall, then that's sort of unpredictable costs for us, which obviously will play through. So those are real pressures. And I think certainly against the demographics, which we've talked about before, you know, that they are real. We are living with them now. Our ability to cost avoid, it has been good in terms of the model, the operating model that we have. We've shown great evidence around how we've been able to hold a lot more of that demand back, if you like. But I think I'd agree with Mark's point, which is, you know, we are cracking, and I think over the next, certainly the medium term, it's looking a little scary, if I'm honest.
Yeah, only briefly to build on the point, really. We have an operating model here for adult social care in Monmouthshire, which is based on avoiding costs, managing demand, building up our wellbeing support, stopping people coming to our front door. We then have really strongly multidisciplinary front doors to our adult social services, and the vast majority, 80% of people who make calls to our front doors are given advice, assistance, information, and don't come through into a social work assessment. For those who do come through into a social work assessment, the vast majority of people either don't have a service at all, or for those who go through a reablement service, they don't need an ongoing service. And then for those who do need ongoing care and support, that's based on outcomes for them, and that means that the care package they have is proportionate to their need, and is cost effective. Against all of that, we've got those demographics which Julie has referred to, and the very vexed question that we're asking ourselves is, how sustainable is that operating model going forward? It's one which is completely compliant with the law. It was at the fore of the Social Services and Wellbeing Act before it came in Wales. But how long can we keep operating given the costs of care, given those pressures within the workforce, both internally, but the vast majority of social care in Monmouthshire is not provided by us as a council. It's provided by partners in the independent and third sector, but mostly in the independent sector. And the costs of providing care within a rural county are obviously considerable, compared sometimes to the costs within urban conurbations. So it's a real sort of pinch point that we're at the moment, and looking at how far we can stretch that operating model. Can we take more demand out before it comes to our front door, more at the front door, or are there very different discussions that need to be had? At a national level, I would direct you to any number of reports, but the really critical one is the Health Foundation foundation report, which came out last year because it was specific to Wales, and it was developed, I think, with a view to how what the resource gap was within the NHS. But what it actually indicated was the resource gap in social care far exceeds the resource gap which the NHS is facing over the next number of years.
Okay, thanks, ladies. And I know that doesn't paint a brilliant picture, but I'm sure we will, as a council, work together in trying to deliver everything that's so important. It's one of our key principles as well. Ruth, and then Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I think Claire did give a very good description as about where we are. The demand is going to get greater. Expectation in itself, I think, is where a lot of the issue is as well, because family life today isn't like it used to be, where everybody took care of grandma or grandpa or whatever, and people were sort of living more locally and so on. Families work far more, husbands and wives, and you've got the sandwich of children and grandparents and so on. And I think until they really feel that somebody needs that care, it's only then they realise what is available, but the expectation is going to be there. And I think that's going to be even more demanding to sort out in the future, in the near future, of how we are going to afford it, because I think it's going to be very, very difficult. And I can only applaud what our officers do in this county to address, the demand that is placed upon them. Thank you.
Councillor Bryan.
Yeah, Chair, in view of the relevance of this Health Foundation report, would it be worth this committee having a look at it?
That's up to you as a committee if you want to agenda it, but I'm sure we had this discussion in our meeting prior to the start of the select committees, Claire, on many reports that you're going to be bringing to us with serious issues in them. So when it comes, it will be tabled to come here if you as a committee want to have a look at it. Okay? Okay? No more questions? May I ask a question then on, we had £1 million last year overspend, and I know it's hard budgeting. Do we run a reserve for yourselves? Where would you pull the reserve from? Where do you pull it from? I'm sure. I thought we had a magic. I thought we had a magic pool somewhere. Or am I dreaming again? No. Where do we pull from? Which reserve do we pull from, ladies?
Oh gosh, any specific corporate reserve. So for example, if we're taking forward staffing restructures which have redundancies attached to them, which we're not able to source from the service budgets, that we don't make the savings quickly enough in year, we make a request formally to Cabinet that we access that reserve. We've had access to transformation reserves in the past to do specific pieces of work, but really, very different to other councils I've worked on, where you could make an invest to save case and there were reserves available within your services which didn't require you to go corporately. There's no hidden pots that we have access to.
Only because in last week's meeting it was made very clear that our pots are virtually potless. Mark, you'd like to comment on that, because it is important, and I'll just give you an example. I think last year with children, foster and stuff, I think we run to all sorts of little bits and pieces. You set up a new team as well, where we had to come back to full council or even Cabinet for monies from reserves. I remember a couple of times with Councillor Burrows on that. Mark, do you want to just comment on that, how serious it is?
Yeah, we actually operate a holistic reserves policy. So other than the odd exception, those being schools or those being ones where we run a partnership on behalf of a number of councils, we actually look at the net bottom line before we actually look for replenishing or utilisation of reserves. So you'll appreciate that last year, whilst there was an overspend in social care, it was mitigated by other underspends elsewhere, such that overall we came in as an 884,000 underspend, and that 884,000 went into replenishing some of the more usual reserves. So part went into priority investment reserve, part went into IT, and part went into redundancy, because those are where the pressures sit. I will always plead doom and gloom in terms of those reserves not being sufficient, I look enviously at colleagues across Wales and the level of reserves that they have to play with. The challenge and the risk for this council is that that doesn't provide a great deal of headroom in terms of considering how to redesign and fundamentally facilitate service change. The bottom line for the council, there is a difference between earmarked reserves and general reserves. Earmarked reserves are those where you put money aside for a specific purpose, whether it be investor save, etc., priority investment, and those are the ones that Claire describes. There is also a general reserve which is made up of the council fund balance and schools, and members may recall that we've actually set ourselves a target from a financial planning terms of having that at a level that is between 4 and 6% of the net expenditure in the year. It is currently at just 5.08%, so in the middle of that band. And actually Welsh Government quite frequently will contact councils and suggest that in this period of austerity, councils should not be sitting on large balances. So on the one hand, I'm pleased that we're not sitting on large balances, but I'd like them to be larger than they are.
Okay, thanks for that explicit explanation. Any more questions? Take us into the capital then.
The capital position is on, just bear with me, I'll get my bearings again. It's shown on page 72. And for adult services, we have no capital programme, so there's nothing really to discuss. But it is there for your information, so you can see the overall capital programme for the council. And then just adding on to what Mark said about reserves, there is a summary in this report showing reserve activity as well, which I think is on page 74, 75. And then just adding on to what Mark said about looking at reserves, you can look at the year-end position report that I did present. I gathered it was a new select committee. You were all new to financial reports, but it was shown on there, like Mark said, the 848k underspend as at year-end. And now that was dispersed among the reserves ready for 17-18.
Okay, thanks. Any questions? I've got one question then. So we don't use anything virtually on capital side of it for this portfolio?
Not adults.
Not adults.
Previous capital programmes.
Right.
The year, through various
I'm just going to use an example of redevelopment of Mardy Park. Yeah. I'm going to use the example of the old caretaker's bungalow at the leisure centre in Abergavenny. That was redeveloped from capital or from grants or from wherever. I'm just using these examples because I think long term here, with all we have going on within social care, adults, young people, are we looking at perhaps long term we're going to have to build health centres, healthcare areas where we have dentists, doctors, surgeries, health areas in hubs? Because the long-term sustainability of doctor surgeries everywhere and people tramping from one place to another, whereas if you have one hub for offering everything, is that the long-term vision here of the focus of, let's say, the next decade or the next 2 decades? Because the feeling I have in England and the feeling I have in parts of Wales as well, that is the future. I'll give you an example. A lovely building being built at Brynmawr. It's going to house everything, so everybody will go to one hub. I have people in my area actually can't find a doctor's. They get pulled from pillar to post. That isn't healthy for people who need the care at home. We're talking about people going home for care. They can't even find doctors. New people, our communities are being built up here. Welsh Government's saying we're not delivering new homes. We deliver too many new homes where people are going to have the dentistry or where they're going to go to the doctor's surgeries. These are long-term views here of where we are. On the capital side of it, where would we be on that? Would we be, we won't, you're going to have to find the money from either private sector or from the Welsh Government or from Westminster. How would that work? It's only a point, but it's a valid point on the long term, because we are talking long term here on how we're going to deliver health and care within Monmouthshire. And I've got Mark going to come in on that one, and then I'll let the ladies have some thought on that one as well.
Yeah, I'll speak while they can have a bit of thinking about the service focus and just actually highlight the technical aspect. Periodically, we do have small elements of capital spend that comes through the capital programme in relation to adult. More often than not, though, in recent years, it's actually treated under a different project. So you mentioned the care, the redesign of the bungalows, that was treated as property services expense. The Mardy Park would have been a revenue intermediate care fund stream and therefore wouldn't necessarily have hit the capital programme. So there are some of these works going on, but it's only when it is afforded by capital receipts, borrowing or capital grant that it would normally hit the capital programme. In terms of the future, well, you may remember that actually Council considers the capital programme for the forthcoming year alongside the revenue budget in the January and February time, and part of that paper actually identifies priorities or unmet demand, and one of the aspects that was identified on that last year was a potential replacement for Severn View in a couple of years' time. So we are actively thinking about it in terms of the service model that describes things being co-located together. I understand that's the way things are going and the economies of scale that results from it, but we haven't anything other than Mardy Park, which is we share with health along those lines at the moment.
What about Budding Crescent and places like that? They're our buildings? Yeah, you carry on. I'm just trying to...
Budding's not is one that we rent off charter. We rent the property off charter.
We rent it off charter?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
So no maintenance, no
We've got maintenance, but it's all part of the rental lease agreement.
Okay.
We've got with charter.
I'm just trying to pick away at capital here. Yeah, no problem.
Can I just put
Yeah,
in
of
on
course you can,
the hub development, which I think is a very important, you mentioned, is this a strategic direction for us? Definitely. Mardy Park, Monavale in Monmouth and Chepstow Hospital in Chepstow. That's where we have our integrated provision, and the vision for each of those hubs, and I'll just take them one by one. Obviously, Monavale's been there longer than any other and is the first, and I think still remain, well, no, there are others now, but was the first venture of a truly joint integrated Section 33 legal agreement between health and social care, which houses a range of provision and services and interventions that we are continuing to develop. So whether that's the ward, whether that's the day provision that happens from there, the integrated health and social care approach, the clinics, that's you could almost argue that is a Monmouth one-stop shop. Similarly, Mardy Park, obviously members who've been around a long time, that was traditionally, many years ago, a residential home. And we've been through many conversations in this committee about the shift and the change to a fully integrated hub, which is now seeing, for example, the memory services being housed there, more and more clinics coming out of forgot the name of the hospital, Neville Hall, and actually looking at much more of that local approach to provision and wanting to build far wider. The interesting thing about Mardy Park is it has a huge community engagement element as well. So we have Branch, for example, using the grounds and cultivating also. So there's lots of opportunities for volunteering. So it's wider than just health and social care. And Chepstow Hospital, and I'll leave that to last because there's a big piece of work going on at the moment to really look at how that does become a central hub. There's lots of space in there. There's lots of opportunities to run further work from there. And all links to the Care Closer to Home strategy that is very much in the forefront of the joint endeavour of bringing services much, much closer. So I think it's fair to say from a Monmouthshire perspective, we've grabbed hold of that very early and saw that as the way forward. Recently, a fourth hub, we're calling it a sub-hub, I think I've mentioned it here before, USC, we've just taken over a building in USC, again, to develop that joint approach in one of our more difficult to reach local areas. And a fifth hub is on the cards, potentially around Caldecott. So we could end up with sort of 5 different types of hub that provide that health and social care. They'll all have something slightly different dependent on the community need and profile, but that is very much the direction of travel. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Councillor Pratt.
That's really good to hear, and I think also these sort of hubs and centres of excellence will be the way forward in order to attract the top doctors and the top professionals, because that is what they are looking to work in now. I know there's going to be the new hospital called the Grange in 2021, and that is an example that will attract doctors from the whole of the UK, where we've really struggled to attract top specialists into Wales. I also agree with Simon. I moved to the area not so many years ago, and I found it very difficult to access services. In fact, to go for my health check, I have to go to Abertillery, I go to the doctors in Bryn Mawr, and it's all over the place. And this is the experience of people that live in Llanelli Hill at the very north of Monmouthshire. So I think, these centres where there's pharmacies, there's doctor surgeries, social health visitors, everything in the same hub is really going to be the way forward.
Claire, yeah, last one.
Yeah, just from a capital point of view in terms of resourcing those sorts of centres, there's a fund which comes through to us as a Greater Gwent partnership called the Integrated Care Fund, and whilst we don't have access to that much capital as part of the Council's capital programme, in terms of strategically putting some money behind the intent to further develop these hubs, that's the option which is open to us. Similarly, Welsh Government has money for primary care development, and I guess the overarching point is the more that we work in an integrated way with our health partners around these estate strategies and hub developments, we have access to pots of capital which are outside of just council capital programme.
All right, thank you. Right, that's us done, I think, on the capital. Yep. Okay, thank you. No problem, thanks both, and we look for. Sorry, my fault. Roger, got your arm
Thank
up.
you, Chair. Yeah, I don't want to go away from the subject of hubs, and I'm looking at 334, where it states in here that the Abergavenny hub, which seems to have died a death, haven't heard anything about it for years, is not in the 2017-18 programme. Can we have some idea? As I say, this is being publicly broadcast, and the people in Abergavenny would be really happy to know when the Abergavenny hub is going to get onto the capital programme.
Okay, Mark, you got your arm up.
Yeah, the only reason it's not in the capital programme for this year is that when it came to budget setting time, there wasn't actually a quantified cost attached to it. Obviously, the constitution is one where council approve anything that's added to the capital programme, so members will be aware and actually influential in the consideration of when that appears in the capital programme.
Okay, Roger. You do have area committee tomorrow as well. Perhaps you'd like to raise it tomorrow. Okay, and let the area committee have a frank discussion on that one as well. I'm just going to. We're waiting for Officer Batewell to come on the Ian Batewell to come on the agenda item number 7. What I will do is I'll move to number 8 and we'll carry on until he gets here. Okay? Because we are running a bit earlier and he was prior booked in the meeting. Okay. So we'll go to number 8. Actions arising from the last meeting. There was a suggestion that we actually, from the actions then, we actually put the response within the minutes. Okay. Everybody in agreement with that, yes? Yeah, okay. Any questions on them actions? Everybody got them? You haven't got them there. I did look at them. There was the issue of the response from Shirley Wigham, etc., with the affordable housing. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I think on item 8 on page 125, if anybody's looking for where we are at the moment, basically I think the table that was provided in terms of the numbers and full breakdown of percentage age breakdown and reasons of entering care were very useful, and it would be very good if that sort of information could actually be published with the minutes, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think we have agreed that if the officers providing the information are informed that it will become public, it will be included onto our action sheet, and then it's full view then of everybody within the minutes there. Has everybody got the action list there, agenda item number 8? Yeah, you've all got it. Any more questions? Roger, you seem to be struggling. No? Okay. I just... Oh, okay, no problem. That's all right. I was just looking at number 4 there, the affordable housing one, and I just find it a little... I'm the answer's there, but what I find quite complicated with the answer is if we have affordable housing delivery within a project of, let's say, 20 properties, and 2 are then purchased, does that mean then we delivered 18 affordable homes, or does it stay on the 20? And the other side of that one then is on affordable homes, you do not have, correct me if I'm wrong, Ruth, you may know this, you do not have the allocation of recreation monies 106 and education monies 106. Am I right? I've just heard that somewhere.
Say firmly about 106 agreements that are done with the developers.
I thought they would only come on private dwellings. So when they are sold then as affordable homes, does that mean then the contribution is lost? Because
they always have to stay as affordable, don't they, Roger? If they're sold on again.
I think the affordables that we deal with almost always come into registered social landlord territory. I don't think the affordables around here is an absolute and total misnomer. There aren't any affordables around here. It's as simple as that.
Okay, Councillor Pratt.
Yeah, we've had the situation, which I'm sure you're fully aware of, in Kyle Eldon, where the properties, the affordable homes, one was purchased within, I think, a month or 6 weeks of the person moving in, and one has to question the eligibility for allowing people to have affordable homes if they can immediately not only purchase the property but purchase the plot next door. It does question the whole process, and that home has now been lost. So that certainly is a concern of mine.
Yeah, that has happened on a couple of occasions. I know we are talking national parks here, and that's where it originally... But we do have a common policy here, actually, of policy of delivering affordable homes should be affordable homes for everyone, not sell off. That's like right to buy, but the home hasn't even got the paint dry on the walls and it's been sold. So but my question is does that actually come on the numbers of 20, or does it come as 18? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've been on planning committees both in Cheshire East and here. And in Cheshire East, when we had reports about affordable housing, they did actually tell you what type of affordable housing it was. You know, in other words, whether it was fully rentable or partial equity and various things like that. I'm not sure that we tend to get that information in this authority, and I haven't noticed it. It's just really in terms of numbers and percentage, not a breakdown of the type. And I think often in Section 106 agreements, I think they do actually go into the detail of the type. You know, in other words, you know, is this shared ownership or is it fully rentable?
We do have that.
You do?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't noticed that.
It depends on what the site is and what the developer is.
Okay. Roger?
It's going back to my point, basically. Practically 100% of so-called affordables in this county have to be bought by registered social or provided by registered social landlords, because you know the affordability criteria are so out of kilter. But I think it's Louise is right. We should have that information if there is any deviation from what we think is the norm. It would be good to have that, so that we can keep an eye on any potential affordable housing disappearing from the county. Thank you, Chair.
Louise, last one on this.
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to suggest is to make it more clear, and again, this was something that was dealt with in more detail in a previous planning committee I was on, was that making sure that affordable houses are for local people, and to make sure that they get priority in terms of the first allocation. And I'm not clear that that is ever actually mentioned, and I think it's very important, particularly in where you've got affordable accommodation in villages and they want to stay within the local area. And, you know, I am somewhat concerned about the level of information we do actually get.
Could I just say, there is a rural allocations policy out there. There definitely is one there. Councillor Brown, if you want to request that, that would be advantageous of yourselves. I know we've got one for ourselves, i.e. For my area, because I know the last couple of developments have gone local need first.
Yes.
There are a couple of documents out there, the key sites as well. I think the key sites, or secondary sites, tell me if I'm wrong. Could I just say though...
The Chair, I could say that the difference is it may be in the LDP or it may be in separate policies, but it's not made clear when the individual developments are brought forward.
I think when you have an housing allocation or a key site, that key site then, if the question is asked, how will the dissemination of the affordable houses be brought, it will be there if requested. Am I right in saying that, Ruth?
And also you get the exception sites, which are land immediately abutting a village or something, and all of the housing on that, whether it's 4, 5, 6, 10, they all have to be affordable. And that criteria, then if it's outside the village, it would come under the rural allocation. And they're very, very strict in this county about allocating the local people to those dwellings.
Roger, last one.
Just to let Louise know, as far as I'm aware, our allocations policy is run by Monmouthshire Housing, and there are strict criteria as to who goes to the top of the list, and there are 5 categories, and if you're in, I think, category 5, hell will freeze over before you get a house. So you need to see if you can find that. And the only time we really take into account, as Ruth has said, local needs is rural exception sites.
Councillor Pratt, this comes under your portfolio in strong communities, I'm led to believe. So if you just bear in mind the conversation we have, and I think it'd be important then if it does crop up then, because I think housing, delivery of affordable homes is hitting the headlines at the moment, and especially on key sites not being delivered, which you have quite a large percentage of affordable homes.
I can also say that personally we had a bungalow built on the farm with an agricultural tie to it. And if that criteria cannot be met in the generations to come, that has to become an affordable home. So there is criteria attached to lots of developments in the county, and Monmouthshire is very strict on that.
Okay, thanks everyone. No more questions on the action sheet. We've agreed that responses will be included on the action sheet for public domain, but the officers need to be made aware that that response will be made public, correct? Yep, all right. Right, we've got agenda item number 9, Adult Select Committee Forward Work Programme. Everybody happy with the work programme? Anything you want including on that? I'm sure the 2 officers in front of us this morning have got plenty going to come to us, but it'll be when it comes to us. I think they've made that very clear. Is there anything there within the work programme that you want to move, review, or there's something on there you feel should be on there? We can have a chat about it. Everybody happy with that? Okay. Also, we do have then the Council and Cabinet Forward Plan, which is so important. We are receiving this on a Friday, which is great. If everybody picks it up on a Friday, any movements there, anything which twigs up, at least you're receiving it now on a Friday, and it's always updated. I have noted there is very little on there, but there's a special cabinet meeting next week, a week Friday. That isn't on here. I can't see the reason why for me it's not on here. It's a special cabinet.
What's it about, Chair?
Didn't get a lot out of it, only there's a special cabinet meeting being called for next Friday. But it's not on here. So we can just request, perhaps this Friday, that it's put on there. All right. and what it's about. It's not on there. Am I right? It's not on there? No. Okay. And to confirm the time of our next meeting, the 24th of October 2017 at 10 a.m. Everybody happy with that? Yep. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Right, we'll go into committee. Ian Batewell will bring a report to us. It's a first draft.